Hello, everyone. My name is Natalia Galvin. I am the Monroe County Now chapter president. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We actually shouldn't have too long a meeting tonight. We have Evelyn from All Options joining us today. So I'm super excited to learn a little bit more about what they do and how things can change with everything that potentially could happen with the legislature and our reproductive justice rights. So I'll just do a little bit of housekeeping while Evelyn gets in. And so I want to first start off with some announcements. Let me see. I have a weird, I was just on a bunch of like boards and commission meetings today. So I have to like change my view screen. But I wanted to make a quick announcement about two new amazing executive board members that are joining us on our team. The first one is Emma Schreiberg, who I think she is, yes, I would love Emma to introduce herself. She's our new chapter secretary. Emma, we're so excited to have you. I could brag about you for 20 minutes, but I will let you brag about yourself and just tell the membership a little bit about you.
Hi, thank you. I'm a freshman at IU with a major in law and public policy and a minor in history. And in December, I was elected the Director of Outreach and Diversity for College Democrats at IU. And I've also been involved a little bit with the local Monroe County Democratic Party. And I'm a precinct chair for the party as well. And I've just been really enjoying getting involved in Bloomington and helping out. And I'm so excited to be a part of this organization. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I met Emma earlier this year. Everything runs together because of, COVID, or just maybe it's me, but so excited. Welcome. And next I want to introduce Jessie Tang. Jessie is our new VP of Communications. Work together on Golden Bicycle, but I would love Jessie to speak about their accomplishment or whatever they want to share. So welcome, Jessie.
Hi, yeah, I'm very glad to be joining Monroe County Now. I have been involved in Bloomington activism for about 5 years at this point, and I've done a various number of things. I used to be the chair of the Young Democratic Socialists of America for IU, but I also worked with Natalia on Golden Bicycle, which is like a climate change organization, and I also worked with Abby on establishing the Monroe County Mutual Aid Program. I also help out with El Mercado, which is like a POC-oriented marketplace in Bloomington. So yeah, I've just been doing many different kinds of activism, whatever I feel like is the most pressing issue at the moment. And I'm very glad to be joining everyone here today and as your new VP of Communications. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am so excited just to make those announcements about the board. And I want to, I'm going to throw it to, can I throw it to Mandy? Mandy, Evelyn is still having trouble getting on, so I'm going to send her something else. Can you explain just a little bit about what's going on with some of the things with National Now?
All right. Do you want me to go right off of the?
Yeah, that's fine. You can just go right off the agenda while I try to get her in.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So the National Now Conference is going to be July 22nd through the 24th. It is in Chicago this year. And if you're in the agenda, it's called Vote for Women's Lives. I know that I'm going, I know that Natalia's going, and there are several Indiana Now people who will be there. So I'm hoping that we can get a carpool together actually to drive up to Chicago, and probably some room sharing too, if people are into that. Anyway, so right now, if you are a Now member, you can actually get an early bird rate for only $19.66. And I'm going to share the link in the chat for that. Let's see. All right, there's the link in the chat for the early bird special. And then at some point I will go in and also look for the more information about the national conference and what to expect. It is going to be at the historic Palmer House Hilton Hotel. So there is a really nice rate for that also. Let's see, other stuff going on with national. I'm trying to think. They actually have a competing event going on right now. It's their State of Women's, I think it's the State of Women. I can't remember exactly what it's called right now, but it doesn't matter because everybody's here. All right, other than that, I'm trying to think. They have several things that are going on periodically. I know that there's one thing called Run Now, which is for people who are running for office. So if you're interested in that, please go check out their website. And I think that's about all I have.
Awesome. No, thank you so much. I just texted her and emailed her, so hopefully that solves it. But I'll just add a couple more things. So Women for Change, it's a partnership that we are exploring to see how we can kind of make a large statewide reproductive justice like advocacy network. And they were one of the partners that we are talking about. They asked if we could, and I'm going to put a link in the chat about a virtual petition. So they are trying to petition the BMV for a special license plate. So they asked us if we wouldn't mind amplifying that to do that. League of Women Voters, and I know I saw a couple of you on that also this past weekend with Representative Pierce and Senator Yoder. They gave a great recap about what happened in the legislature, what they see coming, especially with reproductive justice rights and some other issues. That was super helpful. That's also in today's agenda. With that, League of Women Voters also emailed us to ask to amplify their pamphlet. They really wanted it to be in person, but they've been virtual like we have, like we are. There is also a link for them. I'll put that in the chat about the voter guide. So early voting starts next week for the primary cycle, and they are just getting the word out. We've been partnered with them for a couple different things, and we're excited to amplify that effort too. And also it's on cats. We said that we would publicize that also. And just another shout out for our meetings that are now on Thursday nights, hopefully just an hour quick, just to talk to our membership. And then is Shruti, I don't see Shruti on, so I'll just go into that too. Monroe County Now is sponsoring a team for all options for the Hoosier Abortion Fund. Hopefully, oh, there's Evelyn. Okay, Evelyn will talk about that, but we have our own team. So we are we have a personal goal for Monroe County Now to hit 500. We would love anyone to join us. We're over halfway there, and we haven't really even publicized it as much as we will in the next coming days. I'm going to put a link to our team in the chat. Super excited to, yes, donate. Oh, thank you, Mandy. Yeah, donate at that link. We are super excited to participate in that. And then Mandy, are there any other, I think we're donating to some causes. We'll be at NAACP with a sponsorship this weekend at their banquet. I am I know I can't make it, so I gave my ticket away. But Jennifer, I think you used to tell me you're going, and I think they're sold out. I'm positive they're sold out because people have tried to get tickets and they can't get them. So, but that's going on this weekend. And then I'm trying to think, there's two other, Mandy, can you fill in the two other events that Monroe County Now is supporting? I think the
Yeah.
walks. Okay.
So there are two walks at the end of April. We usually have a team for the AIDS walk, but this year I am not going to be here, so I'm not going to be a team captain, and I didn't want to throw that off onto somebody else. But we have agreed to donate $50 to the AIDS walk, and I will get a link here so that if anyone would like to donate to that cause, you can do that. And then there's another walk. It's Middleway House. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head what it's called, but maybe I can find it in my email here really quick.
And we can put it in the chat too. You
Yeah.
know, when all option or when we're in session and stuff. So yeah, but we're super excited to partner or to participate in those two events. And so I think that's it. Julie, do you have anything with membership?
Hi, yeah, I'm here in the participant list is Indiana Now, but I'm Julie Hardesty. I'm the membership director for Monroe County Now for the county chapter. So just the regular updates from me. If you're a current member, we are sending out reminders for renewal when it's time. So you should receive an email when it's time to renew your membership. And membership is available on a sliding scale from $10 to $40 per year, whatever works for you. There's no questions asked. And if you want to sign up for a new membership, we have a membership form that will take you through the steps, and I'm putting that in the chat right there. And if you are a new member, you are eligible for a complimentary Monroe County Now t-shirt while our supplies last. So Mandy Yates is our treasurer and has our current supply of t-shirts, and we can set you up as best we can if you're interested. So you can just contact Mandy or me, either way. And you can contact me at this email address. So that is my update.
Awesome. Okay.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I do make home deliveries, so I'm happy to drop off t-shirts to new members and anyone who just wants to buy one.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. I love that kind of service. So is there any other exec board member that has anything to share, or any member that wants to add anything before we go to our speaker? Okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to throw it to our amazing VP of Legislative Action, Jennifer Crosley, to introduce our speaker, Evelyn from All Options. I'm so excited you got on the Zoom. That's today. I'm like, it's been a long March, so we're excited to have you.
Glad to be here.
Yes. Okay. With that, I'll throw it to Jennifer.
Hello, everybody. I am Jennifer Crossley, and happy Thursday. So as we end the Women's History Month, we thought it was really important for us to talk about this very important topic and have Evelyn here. And so with legislative action and things that are coming up, we know that Roe versus Wade will definitely be, it's no surprise it's on the chopping block. And once whatever Supreme Court decides, we will see stateside things fall by the wayside, and we can only imagine what Indiana can do. But for us to know where we're going, we have to know where we've come from in this regard. So we thought it would be best to have Evelyn Smith, who is our state programs manager for our All Options Pregnancy Resource Center. So everybody give a warm virtual round of applause for Evelyn. So welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found, how did you find Bloomington and the role you play in All Options here?
Yeah, so I am Evelyn Smith. I'm sorry, I missed in the email the request for a bio. I just totally spaced on sending one. But I've been here in Bloomington for about 14 years. I came here for undergrad and I did biology and gender studies, but I stuck around afterwards. So I worked at Middleway so I was there for 5 years as staff and about 2 years before that as a volunteer, doing a variety of programming around sexual violence, domestic violence prevention, intervention. But I have been at All Options for about the last 2.5 years, managing the Hoosier Abortion Fund and some sort of related programming. And so I'll talk about sort of that programming more specifically later.
Awesome.
Yeah, I had the questions. I'm happy to just go through them, or if you would like to ask, that's fine too.
Yeah, no, well, I would, so the second thing, and I guess we can also mention too, if we have time for any of the audience questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And as we go through, we will be able to ask Evelyn as we go along here, because I'm sure this will be a very informative and meaningful conversation for all of us. So again, just tell us a little bit about All Options and how big All Options is.
Yeah, so folks are probably most familiar with us through the All Options Pregnancy Resource Center, which is down on South Walnut. So that's where we house the Hoosier Diaper Program, which provides diaper assistance, but also menstrual products, pregnancy tests, and other resources to folks in Bloomington and the surrounding area. We've also done, deliveries to like Spencer and stuff like that. And one of the questions folks had asked was how Bloomington came to be the home of the Pregnancy Resource Center. And actually, so I'll talk about our national programs here in a minute, but we run the All Options Talk Line, which is a national program that used to be headquartered in Portland, Oregon. And we had a moment in about 2015 where we were looking at expanding into essentially providing sort of an anti-CPC. Are folks familiar with what a CPC is? So a CPC is a crisis pregnancy center. So it's those fake clinics that you're probably familiar, or that you've probably seen, that often say they provide abortion counseling. They stop short of saying they provide abortion because they don't. What they actually provide is a lot of misinformation about abortion care and reproductive health generally. They often provide things like free ultrasounds, although in my experience, the ultrasounds are not especially accurate. I've seen them get the gestation date way wrong. I've seen them miss ectopic pregnancies, which is really dangerous. But yeah, so we were sort of envisioning ourselves as an anti-CPC, so an organization that actually provided the full spectrum of services. And we had several alumni of the Talk Line who come from Portland to Bloomington. We also knew that Indiana was a state where abortion access was likely to be under fire, is currently under fire, has been under fire for, decades, and that did not at the time have a statewide abortion fund. So there have been some local ones that have provided support locally and some clinic specific ones, but when we started, there was not a statewide abortion fund, which is what the Hoosier Abortion Fund became. Anyway, so that's how it came to host the Pregnancy Resource Center and sort of the programs that have grown out of that. So I mentioned the local ones, right? So we have the Hoosier Diaper Program, which provides a variety of kinds of assistance, menstrual products, pregnancy tests, as well as diapers. But there's also some statewide programming. So I run the Hoosier Abortion Fund, which provides direct financial assistance to folks seeking abortion care in the state of Indiana. Or actually, we actually run through clinics, sorry. I should be more specific about how it works. We work with 7 clinics throughout Indiana and then several more in surrounding states. Kentucky, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan are the most common ones, but we also work sometimes with the clinics that do late-term abortions out in New Mexico and in DC, or Maryland, actually, it's in Maryland. So that's the Hoosier Abortion Fund. It has sort of an adjunct program, the Practical Support Network, which provides transportation assistance to and from abortion care and abortion-related procedures. So one thing we know about our clients is the average Hoosier Abortion Fund client has to travel about 30 miles in order to access care, which is not accessible to a lot of folks who are otherwise dealing, with economic hardship, especially when COVID hit and a lot of like public transit options slowed down or reduced services. That became a huge barrier for even folks who are traveling within Indianapolis. So we have the Practical Support Network, which provides, like ride support. We also run the Indiana Judicial Bypass Project. So Indiana is a parental consent state, which means for minors to access abortion care, they have to have the consent of at least one parent. The IJBP provides minors with free legal assistance. So we connect them with lawyers who work pro bono to help get that bypass order so that they don't have to get parental consent. And then there's a couple of other situations which a person needs a bypass order. So there's a law in Indiana that if you're in foster care, the state cannot consent to you getting an abortion. So you have to have a bypass. And so we've helped folks in that situation as well. And then all these programs are also linked. So we provide a lot of funding assistance to bypass clients. And then I wanted to mention briefly too, we have some national programming. So we run the All Options Talk Line, which provides open-hearted, non-judgmental support and resources to anybody dealing with pregnancy, parenting, abortion, and adoption. We usually use the acronym PPAA. So if you hear me say that, that's what I'm referring to. Sorry, I get lost in the jargon sometimes. And then as connected to that, we have Faith Aloud, which is actually like a clergy counseling line for folks seeking support specifically from a religious perspective. And then we also do a fair bit of like professional development with our pregnancy options workshops, which mostly we work with like clinic staff. We work with like some domestic violence programs, stuff like that, around basically the skills and values we use when working with folks making decisions around PPAA. So like some of it's options counseling, but there's other skills sort of associated with that as well. And then one of the questions I think was also asked was about how big we are. So All Options has 10 staff members and 2 interns. We're spread across 3 states. So California, Indiana, and Ohio. We've also relatively recently had staff people in Texas, which was really challenging, providing support with SB8, and then Pennsylvania. So we're sort of all across the country, but especially right now, California and the Midwest. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that. And it's nice to hear
It's a lot of
the
stuff.
different things. Yeah, no, but this is good. This is why we're having this conversation. So, in leading to our next question, I know you had touched a little bit about some of the services, like you have mentioned some of the services that you All Options provide, but can you just tell us a little bit more, maybe in depth about, that you can tell us, just give us a little bit more in depth of the types of services if somebody comes in and determine that they are pregnant, like what's the next steps that you help them out with?
Sure. So it depends a lot on how people come to us. So I run the Hoosier Abortion Fund. Most of the people who call us they want an abortion. Some people feel conflicted about it, and we're there to process with them a little bit if they need to. But actually, a lot of that goes to the talk line because there's often people need to process a lot, and sort of our focus is handling the finances of it. Which fortunately, since we're in agency, we can get them there very quickly. But so when folks call us, usually when I talk to them, they're seeking abortion care. And so there's a lot of support needed around that. A lot of sort of like soft support skills go into it. So folks often don't know what the nearest abortion clinic is. They may think that they have one nearby, but it's actually a CPC. That happens pretty often. They may feel conflicted. They may just want somebody to sort of non-judgmentally, listen to them. We have, a lot of people who are anti-choice have abortions every day. And so, we're here to listen and support them in the decisions they make, for themselves. That's, our big thing is we want people to have autonomy. So when a person calls us, we just get a little bit of information about them. And then we do triage. So we look at all the calls we have for a given week. And we allocate funding sort of based on a couple of factors. So we try and prioritize folks who are further along. In practice, you can't get an abortion in Indiana past 14 weeks in 95% of cases. It's basically only for health exceptions, and that's very, very rare. And so as folks get closer to 14 weeks, we're prioritizing higher to make sure they can get their procedures here instead of having to leave state where it's going to be more expensive. We prioritize minors because they often have zero financial resources to draw on. And then also, so like folks experiencing domestic violence, sexual violence, especially vulnerable people, we prioritize undocumented folks, stuff like that. And so then, we get back in touch with people. Our average pledge is about $250, which does not cover the full cost of a procedure in Indiana in most cases. The average procedure in Indiana costs between $600 and $800. There's some leeway in there, but there are very few cheaper than $500 or so. And so we can usually cover half to a third of the cost. And then, if somebody we'll work with folks to figure out other ways for them to meet that burden, so we can connect them with other abortion funds, with clinic specific funds, stuff like that, or find cheaper places to get care, which, there are clinics in Indiana across the spectrum of costs. And work with them. If they don't think that they can find it, then we will often, try and figure out in our budget where we can find money to cover their procedure, because we want everybody who wants one to have access to abortion. Yeah, so that's kind of an overall of what we do. And then, after people have care, we give them, so we text them afterwards to check in, just to see how they're doing. We also send care packages to folks, just to, let them know we're thinking about them. And obviously we get their consent first, because abortion access can be very fraught. People are often very anxious about the idea of people around them finding out. That's one of the reasons, people call the talk line after getting care as often as they do, before getting care, because, there can be a lot of shame and fear associated with that. Yeah, so that's sort of the way the abortion fund works.
Yeah, that's a lot. So thank you, because that's definitely a lot. And people definitely need care, especially from the time that they have it until after it is all said and done. And I know from personal experience. So we talked briefly about how things will happen in terms of Supreme Court, but we can only look at our backyard, because we already know that good old state of Indiana, the Hoosier state, we're salivating to go ahead and turn back the hands of time. And I'm not talking about a Cher song. So I would like to ask you, how do you keep, this is a two-part question. So how do you keep tabs on what's happening in our beloved state house? And then what do you see on the horizon in terms of access to abortions that could be coming up soon?
So fortunately, we're really well connected with a variety of organizations who essentially read every state, every state bill is proposed. And so we get alerts that way, and then we share those with folks as well. There are a lot of things that just come up every session, right? There was a lot of anxiety earlier this year when folks saw that there was I think that there was a 6-week ban on the docket. And the reality is that that's been proposed every session for the last 25 years. And so, that's one that we want to keep an eye on, but actually it's the new stuff, the things that we haven't seen before, that we're often more anxious about. And so specifically the thing that we're concerned about now is actually very tied to the Supreme Court. So it's a trigger law. Are folks familiar with trigger laws? For anybody who isn't, they're laws that are tied, and in this context specifically, they're tied to legislative or to judicial changes in Roe v. Wade. So if there's any change in precedent, then the trigger law is activated. And what this one does is call a special legislative session, which is scary for a lot of reasons. One of the things that comes up so the Supreme Court, the court that we have right now, has a habit of writing decisions that strike down things that are bad, but then provide instructions in their written decision, basically how you can circumvent that. So, they'll say, and it wouldn't shock me if this is what happens in Texas, if they say, this is not an acceptable implementation of the law, but if you did want to do it constitutionally, here's what it would look like. And so what I would expect is, unless the SB 8 decision is just a complete revocation, rebuke of it, which I don't think it will be, I would expect to see legislation, I would expect to see this special legislative session triggered and then legislation introduced that looks something like what is happening in Texas right now, depending on what exactly the like the written decision says. And one of the things that's really scary is that this could happen very suddenly and very quickly. And so we don't actually have a great sense of what it looks like or what it will look like. We aren't able to do a lot of planning ahead. So what we're doing right now is planning for something that we know will probably be necessary, which is that more people will probably end up having to leave the state for abortion care. So our practical support network was on hiatus for COVID for a while. We've reactivated that. And we're actively recruiting for it if folks are interested, and especially if you have weekday availability, because weekend clinic hours are actually pretty limited. We would love to have more folks involved in that, and I'm happy to give information about that, especially if you're willing to travel quite a ways up to Chicago or into Ohio are the most common.
So Jennifer had to her internet became unstable too.
Sure.
Something. But just to kind of piggyback off that, what you just said. So what does that entail? So you said people willing to travel. So what are you specifically looking for? If I'm like, Evelyn, I'm in. What does that look like?
Totally.
What would that look like?
Yeah, so what our practical support network does is provide rides to and from abortion care appointments. That involves picking someone up somewhere. So it'll depend on where they are. I'm going to be honest, we don't have a whole lot of callers in Bloomington, but we do have a fair number of Indianapolis, which isn't super far. Taking them to their appointment. Some people stay the whole time. Sometimes we can coordinate different rides there and rides back. It really depends on the situation. And then either they come back or they bring that person back. So abortion appointments can take quite a while. Sometimes folks are in the clinic, even though the procedure itself can be, especially if it's the medication abortion, can be very, very quick. Sometimes folks are in the clinic for up to 4 hours. And so it's often a full day affair. We have a fair number of retirees who are all really wonderful. It's really great to have sort of intergenerational support on it. But if folks are able, even if you're not regularly able to, we usually have a little bit of a heads up so folks can plan around it. That's mostly what it looks like.
I definitely see that as something that we could help help publicize the need for volunteers to come and recruit in that way, to do that. And so how, this is just a follow up to that though. What is the general, I'm sure it can be anywhere, but the general catchment area of the population that you serve, say, if I were in South Bend or Richmond or Evansville, how, if you say that we don't have a lot of people in Bloomington, that, where could it range from?
Yeah. So about 50 to 55% of our clients are in Indianapolis, and then folks sort of range around that. We have we have clusters anywhere there's a population center, right? So we have a fair number of people in Evansville, folks in New Albany, right across the river from Louisville, but we also have a lot of people up north in the region, South Bend, and then folks go to the clinic that's closest to them, which is still often not close, right? The closest clinic to Evansville is a 2-hour drive, and it's in Illinois. It's right outside of. It's actually 2.5 hours. It's right outside of St. Louis. And then if you're in Indianapolis, probably the closest out-of-state clinic is going to be in Chicago, right? So we want to connect people to the closest clinic to them, and especially if they have to travel out of state, that's going to be quite a distance.
That's kind of the pivot. Yeah, that's the pivot. If something happens that we can no longer get services in Indiana, it's where's the closest clinic? And
we do.
Okay.
And we do expect, even in Texas, there are clinics that are able to serve people. It just depends on sort of what the terms of the ban are, right? So a 6-week ban means it's basically a total crapshoot. So whether or not people are able to find out before they actually it's just too late to get an appointment. There are a couple of clinics. I'm happy to talk about where they are. There is a clinic in Bloomington, so we're mostly worried, right, if there is a ban. So there is a clinic in Bloomington. There's 3 in Indy, 1 in South Bend, 1 in Merrillville, Lafayette. There's 1 in Louisville, so that serves a lot of Southern Indiana. But there's none near Evansville. Basically, there's a Planned Parenthood in Evansville, but they don't perform the procedure itself. Sorry, I'm
no, that's perfect. It gives me such an idea. Jennifer, I'll throw it back to you. We're on a financing, I ask a lot of questions, a lot of follow-up questions. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Sorry, so you rights are taken away.
Yeah, so it's like number 6, like about a fundraising.
Got
and
it.
stuff.
You
Yep.
said that.
No, it's
It's been a long day. I'm lagging like my internet. Okay.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
So, okay. So how is all options financed? And do you mainly rely on donations, fundraising and grants?
Yeah. So we have a couple of large donors. So one of them is anonymous, who's I don't know if people are familiar with this, is pseudonymous, the Buffett Foundation. You can tell people that, everybody knows, they just don't tell anybody. So we get a fairly large grant from them, which mostly covers overhead and operating costs. But when it comes to the abortion fund itself, so this past year, because we've gotten some emergency grants, about 50% of our funding has come from large grants, mostly through the National Network of Abortion Funds, and about 50% comes through donations. And so we have folks who do regular donations. We regularly raise about 30% of our budget for the abortion fund via Fundathon, which is what's going on right now. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. It's what the teams are for. And then we just get donations throughout the year. So folks supporting abortion access in Indiana, which is something we really support. So yeah, it's about 50% right now between large funding grants and the and like direct support of like community members.
Yeah. And of course, in the era of COVID, we know that lots of things have just kind of fallen by the wayside with things. And so I just wanted to ask as a follow-up question, do you feel like COVID has hurt the abilities for fundraising, and your usual donors have had to scale back because of COVID? And I guess, how has COVID impacted, fundraising for you, if at all?
No, we've had a long track record of having really great in-person events. So we've had like the outside of Indy in Richmond, the tattoo event, where there was a tattoo parlor who did work all day and provided and split the proceeds with us. We've had taco or beer challenges, we've had trivia nights, and we've had to move a lot of stuff online. Some of that's been really successful. We've had some really great trivia nights online. We've done some movie screenings that were a lot of fun. And so we actually have one coming up, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But it does interfere a lot with like sort of the normal way that we raise funds. It also makes it, and also just the general economic hardship imposed makes it difficult to raise funds. We're a community of people who are already economically marginalized, mostly supporting people who are themselves marginal. So yeah, it's been a challenge, but we're doing our best with what we've got.
Okay. And then I know you have mentioned that one of the events that you would talk about here in a little bit, but do you have any, does All Options have any upcoming events or fundraisers that you would like to promote and talk about, and maybe see how we would be of assistance as well?
Yeah, so we have a couple of things that we would just like folks to attend. So the Younger Women's Task Force of Greater Lafayette is an organization we work with quite a bit, and they're hosting a trivia night this year. They did it last year as well and made about $4,000, which is great. I don't think that they have a date picked yet, but I would keep an eye on our social media because we will post about it. We are also doing movie screening. Tentatively, we will be screening Dirty Dancing if we can get the rights for it. Also, possibly if we can't, you know. And that will be, I believe, April 26th. But let me check real quick. Yes, April 26th. Which we would love to have folks present for. If people are interested in hosting events as well, we have a toolkit for doing trivia nights, which I'm happy to share. And that's usually a pretty small lift in terms of like you need somebody to NC it and to do the scoring, but it's not super complicated, especially with a kit, which I'm really glad comes with a very nice spreadsheet that does a lot of the work for you.
Yeah. Okay. And then as we are coming down to the closing of this conversation, what this is the spotlight where you can just lay it all out at the table and let us know so we can spread the message as well. How, as we as an organization as now and just community members in general, how can we support All Options Pregnancy Center?
The thing we're focusing on right now is Fundathon, just because it runs through the end of April. It's got a lot of backing from the National Network of Abortion Funds. They often match funding. So now is a great time to do fundraising if that's your strength. It is not my strength, so I appreciate it, but it's not yours either. I just talk a lot and I don't really understand what makes people want to give money. It makes no sense to me. So, but I love talking about it all. So if you are into doing fundraising stuff, Fundathon is really great. But especially looking at this summer, we really just need folks activated and ready. I'm going to be totally honest. We're not super optimistic about the idea of like stopping legislation, because the reality is the state house is pretty stacked against us. But doing damage control is going to be really important. And so being able to respond very quickly to whatever restrictions are levied is going to be really valuable. So we're going to need folks active in the practical support network. We're going to need folks able to do whatever other weird things we have to do to jump through the hoops to get people the care they need. And, you know, we are going to want to make a lot of noise about what's happening here because it's not okay. It's dangerous. It will get people killed. And, you know, that's not something we can let people forget, especially because we're expecting probably a lot of chaos across the country. You know, we in some ways we're lucky that we have Illinois very close, which is kind of a stronghold state for access. But you know, that's going to strain them as well. So if you have connections in surrounding states, get them activated as well. Get them connected to abortion funds, to abortion providers, because like things are about to get very hairy, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a question in the chat from Emily Saltzman, Jen. She wants to know what kind of in-kind donations does All Options need, such as toys, clothes, diapers, wipes, etc.
Yeah, especially, so it's hard to distribute toys and clothes right now because like the center is not open to the public, but we can distribute menstrual supplies, diapers, wipes, other personal care products, things like shampoos, soaps, pregnancy tests, you know, things that especially like pregnancy tests that have to be unopened. But that's the kind of thing that is especially helpful right now. It's also worth noting that we have a lot of like supply line connections. And so like money often goes, you know, a long way. We can get, I promise that we can get diapers cheaper than you can because we buy from a medical supply company. But yeah, so those are the kinds of things that are most helpful right now and get distributed both locally and across the state. Because I don't know if I mentioned this, but we integrated the diaper program and the Hoosier Abortion Fund last year. And so we provide diaper support to Hoosier Abortion Fund clients, which is great because one of the many things we know about our clients is about 60% of them already have kids.
So I had a quick question, just something that we were talking about as my internet went kaput, is I'm just curious because every time I leave work and I'm driving down Walnut in College, and we already know it, like, for example, Planned Parenthood always has the folks that walk literally day and night and sometimes have their children out there to pray to end abortion. I'm just curious, do you all see any type of like anti-abortion that is tailored at you, and what's happened with that? Have you had some craziness that has happened?
So one of the things that's actually kind of fortunate about our positioning, and the fact that in a lot of ways we resemble a CPC, is that people don't actually know what to make of us. So we get a fair bit of unpleasant communication via phone and email, but we don't get a whole lot of in-person people, which is great. And even if we did, the thing that we always emphasize, and we have had it a couple times, the thing we always emphasize, is that people have autonomy over their own bodies. And if abortion does not fit into a given person's moral ethos, then they should not have an abortion. That's fine. But it is important that everybody have access. That even if you don't have one, other people need them. Other people deserve to have them. So
Yeah.
And so we don't get a whole ton of in-person stuff, but we do get hate online sometimes. Especially we're in litigation with the state right now, and so sometimes you get people who are checking those blogs pretty religiously.
Wow. Yeah. Well, this was very informative, and definitely appreciative. I always like to say that everybody is pro-choice, because you can either choose to get an abortion or you can choose not to get one, and that's your choice and that's your decision. But if those that do decide to do that, they shall not be judged or shamed. And we are definitely grateful for all that y'all do, and would love to help out in any way possible. So I was just trying to check to see if we had any more questions, or if anybody else wanted to chime in on anything.
I know I wanted to say thank you also for all you do in our community. And so we had Representative Pierce and Senator Yoder at one of our earlier meetings this year. And for me, the path is kind of clear. It's going to be a really hard, ugly year, but grateful for the path that they kind of set aside. It's like we have to change things legislatively, or we have to change things at the election box, so we don't have to worry about having our rights taken away, but then also support organizations like All Options, who are figuring out a plan B when that happens. So a lot is being asked of us right now, but it's clear, that the path forward. And so thank you for all you're doing, because I know that it's it's not easy. Our state is not making it easy for you to do this work. So yeah.
We're glad to be here, and I'm glad to be doing this work. You said I've worked in violence prevention for a long time. I see this as a kind of violence prevention. The risk factor, when you see folks with unplanned pregnancies are dramatically increased risk of experiencing domestic violence, for example. So all of these things are very linked together. And so the work we're doing is connected to the work that you're almost certainly doing somewhere. So.
Well, we know that we have intersections with our Vice President Shruti Rana, who's also on your board and stuff. But we want to do more, right? One of our big goals for Monroe County Now was to do more with All Options this year. And so, however you gave us a list, so I'm not asking for more. Fundathon is, on the priority, fundraising, building up the coffers so that if we have to pivot to traveling much farther away, that's more money that is All Options going to need for that. So I hear that.
And it's, we're lucky to have actually a lot of guidance from the folks in Texas. Been dealing with this in some ways in a worst case scenario. If you're in the middle of Texas, you're 300 miles away from anything. In Indiana, at least we can get to Chicago if we need to. So, learning from the folks that are already dealing with crisis and preparing for crisis, the best we can do right
now. Awesome. If anyone has anything, we are so grateful for your time today. Thank you.
always glad to be around. So thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for all you do. So we'll be in touch soon too.
Cool.
With some other next, other things we can help with too. So
I wanted to say if anybody has questions about Fundathon in particular, I'm going to put my coworker Anna is the one coordinating that, so I'm going to put her email in the chat.
Yeah, what would we specifically reach out to you for? So there's a lot of leaders on this call right now, like in just different capacities than just now. So what, like, what would we reach out to you for? And you said Anna is for fundraising.
I'm always happy to answer questions sort of about the state of abortion access in Indiana. If you have general questions about trends we're seeing, also if you have specific questions about like, this person needs abortion access, how can I help them get it?
Okay.
I am a person who is happy to provide support around that. That is what I consider part of my job. So yeah, I do mostly the direct support stuff.
Direct support. Okay. Awesome. Evelyn, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you all. I appreciate it too.
Well, I think that wraps up. Just we have some dates in the chat. I just echo what Mandy said. If you're interested in joining us, I hope you are this summer for our national conference. I'm the chapter president, and I will say this to nationals. I bulked at paying $125 or $120, which is like the regular registration fee. I know there's like additional costs for the Hilton or the Palmer House and stuff, but if you can get it for $20, get it for $20. Come join us. I think I put it in the minute or the agenda. I think that price is good for another couple days. So I would totally do that. And then our next chapter meeting is the last Thursday of April at 7:30. And we're still lining up the speaker, but we're excited about it. So Shruti, if you want to say something about our team, we mentioned it ahead of time, but you're a team captain for it. So I saw we're over halfway to our goal.
Hey.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for everyone who's been a part of it. And I think you posted the link also, right? So yes, we'd love donations, and maybe we could do our own like fun event, like I don't know, we could maybe do an in-person watch party or something like that and try to raise money. But as you know, All Options is one of the most amazing, I think it's one of the most amazing organizations in Bloomington and nationwide. And so I just really think this is a great opportunity to support. And I'd love ideas on how to make a fun fundraising activity that we can do.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I say we take our 3 minutes back, and I'll see you guys next month. Thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight.
Good night, everybody.